is hereby inducted into the WNU College of Education Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome Manuel Teran, class of 2024.
Good afternoon. You can hear me?
Yes.
2 years ago, they found a tumor in my throat. It was cancerous. I went through chemotherapy and radiation. So I apologize if you can't understand me. If you can't, you can take a nap. I want to thank, first of all, Dr. Shepherd for being the shepherd of this university and bringing in so many innovations and bringing in so many new courses that have made this institution well known all over the region. I know that when we got here, my boys got together and I heard one of them say, "I hope he remembers why he's here." Another one said, "I hope he didn't forget what he's talking about." And the third one said, "I hope he didn't fall asleep while he's talking." I'm going to do all three just a comparison. I was thinking last night, this is for the College of Education. What does that mean? And I remember when I took over Bell Elementary School as a principal, I loved to go in the first day of school. I'd go into the kindergarten room and I'd see all these little sprinkles coming in. Little girls with tree braids, new dresses. I was teaching in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. And so I hear one little girl, "Vámonos para la casa, Mama. Let's go home, Mom." Another one, "Yo tengo miedo, I'm afraid." But the first person they met was their teacher. And that teacher made them comfortable. She validated everybody. And by the end of that year, these kids were reading and doing simple math. They go to first grade. Same thing. Teacher that validates them and opens that world of education a little more. They go all the way to fifth grade with new teachers. And every grade they go to, the first person they meet is a teacher. And they go with all their raging hormones into junior high. Those teachers who do combat play. Then they go on to high school. At high school, the teachers open the world to them. All this education. Most high schools now have trades, mechanics, home ec, everything. So because so many kids, high school is terminal. They want to get out in some more. They want to get out and work. They can't afford to go on to higher education. But those teachers have made sure that they learn what they need to learn to get out in the workplace. Because we're such a diverse society that we need sanitations to brain surgeons. But what do they all have in common? They all have a teacher. Many go on to college or to vocational school or to community colleges, who's the first person they see? Their teacher. By now they call it instructors, professors, teachers, but that's the first person, and that person starts to make the world so much bigger than education and showing them what they can do and trying to teach them to reach their potential. Some decide to earn their bachelor's, their master's. First thing they see is a professor or instructor. They go on to the university, work in their EDD or PhD. The first person they see is a professor or instructor who specializes so much that when they get out, they're ready to face the world and any problems there are. So to me, a teacher is the most noble profession we have. Teachers don't go into teaching because of they're going to get rich. They're probably the lowest paid profession for all the training they have to do. But teachers teach from the heart. And so we want to recognize teachers for whom they are. If you notice the news, even in Ukraine, you see teachers herding these little kids into bomb shelters. They have a blackboard and they teach them because they know that education is a bedrock, the backbone of a nation. And so I congratulate Dr. Shepard and all the instructors that open up this whole world to the young kids coming in. That's my spiel. That's my advertisement for teaching. And I have 2 or 3 little stories about Western when I was here, if you'll bear with me. The first one, I used to park by Light Hall. I would walk up about halfway to the library, and I would sit on a cement bench that was there. One day, this little African-American young man came and sat next to me. I introduced myself, and I asked him his name. He kind of grunted something, but I didn't understand him. Anyway, I went on to class. Pretty soon, he had his notebook and pencils. So pretty soon, he comes up behind me, not too close. I go into my classroom. He follows, sits several seats behind me. And I thought, that guy's kind of strange. He had like rouge on his cheeks. And, but I said, we're all so different. Each one of us a world inside. And so I said, I accepted him. I said, anybody in this world and everybody has a life plan, and they must live their life plan. So whomever they want to be, let them be, so long as it doesn't impinge into your own life. There are so many things going on now that it's almost unbearable to watch the news. Anyway, I came out of class, and a boy, a friend of mine from Lordburg said, "Oh, I see you met Johnny Banks." And I said, is that his name? He said, yes. He told me a rather tragic story about him, and I understood. He had permission to go in any class and sit there so long as he was not disrupting and take notes of whatever he wanted to do. So I see him in the on campus, and I would wait. Sometimes he'd wait, sometimes he didn't. But he became an icon to this place. And by an icon, I meant that everybody accepted him as he was. That's my story on Johnny Banks. I'm going to tell you number 2. When I started freshman English, there was a Dr. Harold N. White. He had come from North or South Carolina. So to him, this is kind of a Wild West place. And he had lost his wife a little bit before I enrolled. So I started taking classes with him, and he kind of took me under his wing. And he would show me extra things about writing and all. And one day he said, "Why don't you think about majoring in English?" I had no idea what I wanted to do. And he said, well, I told him, okay. He said, because I think your writing is rather metaphysical. As soon as I left, I ran to the library to look up that word. I had no idea what it meant. He was my mentor. My junior year, he told me, "Why don't you apply for Sigma Tau Delta for the English fraternity?" So I was accepted. And my senior year, I was vice president and all this kind of stuff. But that's not my story about him. My story is, one day I told him that we would climb up to the top of the kneading mill. And I asked him one day, "Would you like to go?" And he said, "Sure." So one Saturday morning we drove up. We could still get up there close. We got up to what they call the altar. We had to jump down between huge boulders. And when we got down there, I told him, "You see that opening over there?" There was an opening about 3.5 feet tall, and it was very dark. I told him, "Turn your light on, we're going to cross through there." He looked at me like, is he crazy? But we did cross through, and that other one led to a room. Pardon me. Led to a room that opened up. And that room was, you could tell people had lived in there, indigenous people. I had gone up there many times, well, not many, but a few times before. So I knew what was in there. I told him, "Take that screen and spread it out." Then I got a shovel that I had there and filled a bucket up with sand. Then I told him, "When I pour the sand on there, you kind of jiggle it around," which he did. And then suddenly he said, "Oh my God, look!" It was a little Native American turquoise bead. We worked for hours doing that. By the time we left, he had a handful of Native American beads. Some large, some small, some turquoise, some were white, and some were tiny. We had to wet our fingers to pick them up. We came out, went back down, and just before we got to our cars, I heard a noise, and I told him, "Stop." I'd heard that noise many times before. And so I looked around, and sure enough, close by, for the biggest rattlesnake I'd ever seen. So I had my dad 22, so I took it out and shot it. I would never do that now. Everything in this world has a right to live. And I stepped on his head, cut off the rattles and played them to him. That gave him a shock too. He didn't know what to do. But he was my mentor. He taught me things that mostly about living and life and preparing myself for an education after his. And the reason I had come to Western because I had graduated from high school in '54, before any of you were here. I went to school to be with my friends. I went to school to play sports in PE and to eat the delicious burritos my mom made for me. I had no plans, no goals, nothing. I joined the Marines to be the proud few. For the scare I had when I got in there. Anyway, I served 1 year in Japan, 1 year in the Philippines. If I had hours, I would love to tell you stories about the jungles in the Philippines and what happened in Japan. But when I got here, back to the States, all the Marines gathered in a room where they were going to get their new assignment. And they told me my assignment, and I waited till everybody was gone because I said, that's not me. And I went back and I told Sergeant, I think you made a mistake. I can't go into that outfit. And he asked my name, I told him, and he said, it says here, recon. Now get your stuff and get out of here. So I did. But all my 3 years I'd been in by then, I'd heard that recon was like the Navy SEALs are now. And I heard they were muscle bound, they ate nails and rocks for breakfast, so they were really tough. But now I'm very glad that I got into that outfit because they taught me discipline. My first 2 or 3 years were nothing but a big vacation. I wish I could tell you about the Philippines. They were, it was a great vacation. Here I learned discipline. I learned to be creative. I learned endurance. They made us swim halfway to Japan and back. And it was just something that made me grow inside. And after I'd rappel off cliffs and land in the rubber boats and all, jump out of planes, I would talk to myself and I said, I did that. If I can do that, I can do anything. So my mantra became, I can do it. And I did. So when I came here, I came on a GI Bill. And my first year I did terrible. My second year I said I better settle down or get out and get a job. I made a dean's list. I said, oh, maybe I can do it. I thought I was pretty dumb. My third story I want to tell you is one day I left class here and I was going toward my car. And for some reason, my guardian angel got my ear and said, this way, dummy. I saw a payphone. I called a lady who was my neighbor in Bayard. She had 3 little children. She was alone. I said, you know what, I need to talk to you. She said, I need to talk to you too. That led to my marriage, my union of 57 years that we were together. But my point here is, I got a phone call one day while I was sitting watching the kids, and this sweet little lady said, this is Mrs. Phillips at the admissions office. There are 2 gentlemen here wanting to interview for jobs in Jennings. I said, I'll be there in a blink. And I was. I ran up to the library. There were 2 gentlemen there. And I asked them, and they said, yes, it's us. We went inside. We talked for about 10 minutes. It didn't seem like an interview. But after a few minutes, they said, we have a job in Teran. It's teaching social studies at the junior high. Would you like to apply for it? I said, yes, I would. I didn't have any idea what I was going to do after I got out of college. Nothing. I always turned myself over to the universe, and I said, help me. And it always does. Because that phone call changed my whole world. What I would do before that phone call is that I would work at my dad and my uncle's Chico tortilla factory that they had in Bayer, and he also had a restaurant. So I helped in both places. But I ran out of money. And so that opened my whole world, that phone call. My point here is that I'm never going to thank that lady for making that call. I don't even know how she got my phone number. So as an old man, several years ago, I wrote down my philosophy. And one of the lines of my philosophy says, always listen to the soft voice of your conscience. It is your better angels teaching you the right way. If you listen, you will never have regrets later in life. I have 2 great regrets. I didn't help my dad as much as I should. He was disabled for working in the mines by 46 years of age. He died at 62. My other one was that I never went to see Mrs. Phillips to thank her. So my advice to you, when somebody does any little thing for you, you don't need to send them flowers and candy and balloons and a mariachi. Just go up and thank them. And in closing, I would like to say, if you know a teacher or if you go to school, go up to your teacher, extend your hand, and say, thank you for being my teacher. It's the most noble profession you can have. That's the end of my talk. One more thing. After my wife died, Joe and Robin, they become my guardian angels. For real, they have saved my life several times. Joe said, get the ribbons, Joe, Dad, and so we can make a shadow box. So he did. So my whole entrance to the house now is my military wall. Then he said, write down what you have said to me about my life. So I sat down at my computer one day, and amazingly, memory just started flowing like a raging river. And so I wrote a book. Actually, I wanted it to be published here, but Joe sent a transcript of here. I think it would be the Thanksgiving and Christmas about 2 years ago, and we never heard from. They probably saw the book. This was written by a fourth grader. We can't publish stuff like this. So he looked on Amazon and he found a place called Lulu, and they actually published for me for half price. I have 3 copies, one to Dr. Shepard, and one for Jose, and one for Olivia. Somebody has it. If you would give them to him, please. This is my book that, well, here, you opened the, that's my book that I wrote, and I would like to present it to them.